Okay, here's a screenshot of the re-released version of Spyro, which has come out in the last couple of years, and I want you to have a little think about what you think some of the game mechanics for this game are, and then we'll talk about it in just a second. Pause the video and have a think. Okay, hopefully you've had a little bit of time to think about it. Because Spyro is a dragon, some of the game mechanics are based around that feature. So obviously he can do things like run, walk, turn left, turn right, but he can jump. And if you press double jump, it will allow him to glide forward, so he can fly in some aspects, I suppose. He can headbutt or run and ram into enemies. And you can see on the top left hand side, you can collect some gems. So that's another feature within the game as well. Okay, so all those things are different game mechanics. Don't worry if you didn't get them. Just a recap of some of the stuff that we were talking about last week. Okay, today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about character design. So hopefully by the end of today's session, you'll be able to describe how a character's design fits in with the game's type or its genre. You're going to be able to explain customization within a game and design your own game character. So character design is really important. In fact, it's its own specialised job within video games design. Okay, you have to have obviously be artistic, you have to have a really good imagination and be creative if you can take somebody's brief and design a character to match that. It's really important that characters are kind of believable, that they make sense in their surroundings, they match the levels which they're designed with, and that they take on some of the personalities through their physical attributes and what they actually look like, so you believe that that's what they're actually like. And the best characters can obviously be seen everywhere because you'll have lots of extra merchandise as well as the video game itself that the character could be used in or shown on. One of the most famous video game characters of all time, I suppose, is Mario. Now, he actually started off being called Jumpman in the original Donkey Kong, and he is actually a carpenter. Some of the reasons behind the choices of what he looked like, it was really difficult to do facial features in 8-bit, so they decided if they gave him a mustache, it would make the face look a little bit more like a face shape. Also, the hat was there to not have to design too much about the hair, and the red and the blue were chosen just because of the good contrast between the two different colours, so it made it easy to see where certain parts of his body started or stopped. Okay, now if we scroll forward to 1983, that's when Mario actually became Mario. He was named Mario in the second Donkey Kong Jr., but then he's got his own game that came out in 1983, Mario Brothers, which featured both Mario and Luigi, and they changed his job to be a plumber, and that was because they decided that it matched more what he looked like with the mustache. They thought it made him, that's where the Italian came from, and they decided to base the new game in New York, and he could be in the sewers and stuff, and the plumber part would make sense a little bit more. And since then, he became such an iconic character that he's fairly stayed the same. So you can see the next three increments are just kind of more detailed versions of that original change. Then when we come to the Nintendo 65, Super Mario 64 was released away in 1996, which is quite a long time after, and that's where we started to see Super Mario as the 3D version. Still got a lot of the same features, so the hat was there to have to cover some of the graphics to do with like jumping and things. His mustache was still used greatly to save having to do a lot of work with the movement of his mouth when talking, to save a lot of facial features and things like that, okay? And they also swapped the blue and the red around the opposite way. I'm not actually sure why that was, but they did decide at one point to change that throughout the course of time. And then the last Mario that you can see there, which is the high kind of definition version, is the one that we're used to now, since the video game's graphics in 3D has become a lot better. And that's the version that you'll see in things like Mario Kart, on things like the Wii and the Switch, as Nintendo has come through the years. But obviously, all the games that Mario was based in, they're designed around him because he became an iconic character. But you do have other games where there's series and the characters sort of match them. So, for example, here's some of other famous video games characters throughout the years. And hopefully, just by looking at the pictures, you should be able to tell a little bit about the types of games that they're in, even if you've never played them. So let's start off with the left. We've got Lara Croft. Okay, she's kind of a third player game similar to Spyro, where you see the character in front of you, okay? But you can see that it's adventure, there's jungle. She's obviously from Tomb Raider, so it's kind of set in that sort of that theme, and you can tell a lot of that from the background and from the colours and things that are used on her, I should say, lack of outfit. If we look at the next person, we've got Commander Shepard, who is from BioShock. That's a sci-fi type game, so you can tell from the genre and how he's dressed, the kind of robotic outfit, the gun, it's all very kind of the blues, the muted colours are quite sci-fi as well. It looks very futuristic. He's quite plain, very stern looking. Um, Not a lot of hair and all that type of stuff, so it gives you a little bit of an idea of the type of the game genre. That then moves us on to Kratos, which is from the very famous God of War movies. So again, it's meant to be sort of mythology, a little bit fantasy. He doesn't really look that human-like, I suppose, because he's very extreme. You can see all the kind of veins in the muscles and stuff on him. But again, it's the fantasy, the type of outfit is very different to what we would see in something nowadays. He walks about with an axe as well. So there's things like that as well. Then at the bottom we've got kind of more children-based games, adventure as well. So we've got Link from The Legend of Zelda and Crash from Crash Bandicoot. Again, you can see the kind of bright colours that are used in the children's versions of one. The fact that they've got like, comical features. Link is obviously a bit elfish with his big ears. Crash Bandicoot with the big feet and things like that, and the smile and things, a bit goofy, so it appeals to children, things like that. So there's lots of different changes that happen based on the genre or the type of the game and the target audience. The last one on the right hand side is Agent 47 from the very popular series of games Hitman. And you can see that because of the theme of that game, you can't see the level or anything, but the theme of that game is very kind of like the transporter film where it's very suited and booted, very sleek. Because he's a hitman assassin, he doesn't have a lot of defining features, but very stern. It's quite a serious game, and the characters have been created to match the game that they're put into. Okay, and these are some of the characters that have lasted throughout the years in various versions of the games. So the character design for them is really, really good. But in some games, you don't always have main characters. So what some games do is they allow you the option for customization. And there's a huge amount of games that allow for customization. Now, most of the games that use customization are role-playing games. And that's because you're more closely involved with the character. They stay with you throughout your journey. You kind of adopt them as your persona. And the customization can range from just changing the sort of clothing or your skins to a complete overhaul of every part of their body and shape. And obviously some are human, some are not human. Here's some examples that I found when I was looking up sort of the top 10 commonly kind of mentioned customization games. So you can see some of them you might recognize. So on the right hand side you've got The Sims 4, which is obviously quite a classic. On the bottom left hand side we've got Spore, which is also brought out by EA Games. Same idea, but it was based around kind of monsters, animal type creatures, if you like, and you could change every feature of them that you like. Some of the other games allow full customization. So you can see on the middle left hand side, this one here, that is, what game that is, that's Bloodborne, and the one down here is Saint Row. They are both allowing you to change a huge amount of features if you look at this. So you can see the height, you're changing lots of different features down here. All these options are just about the ear, what ear length, height, angle, how open you want the ear to be, how big the lobe is. So there's lots of different customization you can make in some particular games. And Fallout, Final Fantasy, again allowing you to make a lot of changes. The one down here at the bottom called Black Desert, it is probably the biggest rated customization game that I found. Every single one I looked at, it was definitely top 1, 2, and if not 3 of every list that I looked at. And it's a massively multiplayer online game, MMO, and you can change everything, you can see down there the shine within a person's eye. So it was lots of customization. The one in the middle here is the one that I chose to do a little bit of research about, which is called Biomutant. And it's actually a game that's coming out this year, so it's not out yet. But the reason that it's different from the rest of the games is that as well as being able to customize the appearance, which is what all the other games do, just allow you to customize appearance, they don't change the gameplay. What Biomutant does is allow you to change the appearance, so things like the gender, height, body shape, thickness, fur, fangs, all that type of stuff of your character, which is like a raccoon type creature. What it also does is it bases its statistics and gameplay on what you've chosen. So you can see there, for example, if you pick a thicker or a heavier base character, then it will move slower, but it will have more strength when it comes to creating damage or it will be able to defend itself from damage better. So there's pros and cons to making different choices, and the people who are playing the game can customize their character to make it just right for them. As well as the initial customization, it also allows customization throughout the game where you can upgrade or mutate your character to put in additional needs or additional abilities like adding on wings or claws, etc. Okay, so that's a new game that's coming out soon, and that was what I chose to do my research on. So that brings us to what your task actually is this week. Now again, it's a 3-part task, 3 short reports. I've got a template for you. So the first thing is I want you to choose a historical video games character. Could be one of the ones I mentioned earlier, but don't do Mario, because that's the one I did, and I want to read about other characters. Now remember, it doesn't have to be the protagonist. So it could be that you pick, instead of Mario, you pick Princess Peach. You know, why has she been designed the way she is? Because she's still been redesigned throughout the years. Okay, see if you can give me, if you can't give me like the whole evolution of the character, that's totally fine, but even if you could just give me the earliest version you could find in the latest version, even with Lara Croft, you should be able to see similarities and differences between the earliest version and the newest version. So you're going to do a history of a famous video games character first, which will be probably the bigger task, but you'll be able to copy and paste bits and then change it into your own words. The second task is I want you to pick a game other than Biomutant and talk about the character customization. So it might be looking specifically at Fallout 4 or Final Fantasy. And then trying to think about what customization it allows. Do a little bit of research and give me pictures. Feel free to do more than 2 about, you know, the differences that you can create. There was quite a lot of web pages that I looked at, and it would give you like the version of a character in Sims 4 and then a completely different version, just to show you how different you could make characters within the same package. Okay, and talk about what impact it has, or if it's just like their appearance, which it probably will for most of the other games apart from Biomutant. The last thing is I want you to go to a web page. I'll put the link in the template and I'll also put it on the show my homework task. Is I want you to go into a web page and click to get a random character selection. So you can see that mine came out as gender male, being a vampire, age group young adult, appearance tall. He had a dominating personality. His key feature was he had his ears pierced, which is a little weird, and he was armed with a bow and arrow. And then what I want you to do is to draw somewhat of a picture and then describe the character. Okay, now what I did is found a kind of generic picture on Google Images, and then I adapted it so that he had pierced ears, fangs, the bow and arrow, etc., etc. Just using Microsoft Paint. It wasn't anything fancy. It didn't take me very long. But the description is the most important bit, and that's what I'm going to be looking at for this last report. So you should notice if you read mine, it says Drake is a teenage son of Count Dracula. Since his father was killed by an army of rival vampires from the east, he was hounded by overwhelming need to get justice. So that's sort of a background. But as you go down, he's a young male. You can see he's quite tall. He's grown up in the Gothic Victorian 19th century. It tells you about his dress. He's got an emphasised Gothic look with pierced ears and dark eyeliner lined eyes. So you can see that all of the things from above, vampire, male, young adult, etc., are all kind of mentioned. I've talked a little bit how he moves, some of his mechanics, you know, that he can jump, run, climb. He's equipped with a bow and arrow. It talks a little bit about the bow and arrow and what that's used for. And then I talk about, you know, if his health gets low, the fact that he could take blood infusions, or he could grab human victims and steal their blood, and that he can lure victims quite easily because he's confident and domineering. So you should almost be able to like highlight or embolden all of the kind of 7 blue points from the brief to make sure you've used them all. Don't worry about the orange ones that come up because that's just something else for the website. But those kind of 7 blue points, I want to try and make sure that you use each and every single one of them in your description. Okay, now hopefully if you manage all that, then you will be successful in describing how a character's design fits in with the game's type and genre, because you'll do that in the first report when you're talking about kind of history of a famous video games character. You'll be able to explain the customization of a character's design within a game by doing the second report, and you will have designed your own game character by doing the third report. If you have any questions, remember to drop me a message and the URL will be in the template for you. Speak to you later, guys. Bye.